Let's talk about something different, which is the fact that a lot of people don't know that they failed, and these specific people being those who are arguing for mass immigration. Now, I don't know about you boys, but I've definitely seen a conversation shift in the last few months, specifically around mass immigration. And it's not just us, of course. The Canadians have been going through the same thing, and then the shift in the conversation there has happened. The United States with the illegal immigration on the southern border. I mean, massively, the Anglosphere has now got the mass of the population all in agreement that this is terrible.
It's
and
not
needs to
even
stop.
just the Anglosphere anymore. Have you seen some of the opinion polling and things on the continent of Europe? Like loads of continental countries are pushing very hard.
I mean, just look at how they're voting.
Yeah.
It's just I have a strong bias for the Anglosphere because,
we're
cool.
English, yeah.
So there we are. But the argument that I want to go through today is the one of ancient times in a land before, in
a land before.
After the something happened.
I don't know why you're sounding like a pirate, but
once upon a time there was a man, and he argued that more immigrants equals more money and Medicare. No, and the argument that the economy needs lots of immigrants because literally it doesn't exist without them, even though it already exists. Otherwise, why would they be coming? Never made any sense on any front, and has always been kind of a comical thing. And it's reared its head again because of our good friend, James O'Brien, who has decided to turn up and have an argument with someone on his talk show. And he's arguing that infinity migrants in the UK is the reason that we're all so rich in the UK. I mean,
my pockets are sagging with all of the pennies that I fit in them. I don't know about you guys.
Seems like he is as well. He's
pennies around your
He's like that. Why is he always hunched over?
Poor people.
Yeah, but I mean, it is stupid at this point. I mean, the UK is still poorer than it was in 2007. We've not recovered, and it shows.
Oh, hello there. Me and Stelios have recorded a video about Chinese proverbs, and it's very good. If you want to become wise, which you should, go and watch it on the website. Sign up for £5 a month. It's very good.
I mean, not only comparing, obviously, to the rest of the Anglosphere, the Canadians and the Americans, the Australians and New Zealanders, I think are all doing better than us.
Yep.
But the world has changed as well. I mean, like a friend of mine was talking about his company, and they were debating to go pro-Israel or pro-Muslim in the recent debate, right? And he's a very business-minded chap, so he was thinking, Jewish money, there's quite a lot of that. And then he realized, hang on a minute, the Muslims have all that oil. And the world has changed. They're no longer poor. They're unbelievably rich. So they had an and an and eventually came down on one side.
What company is that? Are they selling weapons? Like, why do you need a position on the Israel-Palestine conflict at all?
I'm not going to tell you. But my point being that, of course, the world has changed. Quite a lot of countries that were once poor are now very rich or very middling or very similar to the UK at this point. And the UK in the Anglosphere is a joke. And we are the ones who have gone through infinity migrants from, the third world, if possible, in a recent time. So it's just mad. But here's the debate, and I'll just play it, and we'll enjoy the conversation, I suppose.
I suspect that you want less immigration and a stronger economy.
I think less immigration would be a good idea because I think principally immigration displaces the lower levels of English people, pushes them onto welfare, and that is not good for the social contract.
Okay. What if you can't have a stronger economy without high immigration? What do you do then?
Above my pay grade, Squire.
Well, it's not, is it? Because it's actually the basis of your voting intention. So you're drawn to one of these weird new parties that begins with R, are you, Bill?
Only with reluctant. R is for reluctant.
But the relationship between economic growth, if you have fewer people earning, is an impossible relationship.
What?
No, it's not.
How the cake is sliced.
No, it doesn't. That's a silly figure of speech, Bill. It depends how the cake is sliced.
That is one of the arguments you're putting forward is the one the think tanks put forward themselves because they're the ones who are going to be enriched by it. I mean,
no, Bill, you're literally the poster boy for the kind of think tanks I'm talking about. You believe in the impossible.
You keep telling me what I'm saying.
I just keep reminding you what you said when you rang in. You want a stronger economy and lower immigration. That's literally your reason for ringing in. You said the two things they failed on, didn't you? Are the economy and immigration. You're going to vote for one of these weird new parties beginning with R that you think is further to the right than the Tories, or at least more likely to deliver lower immigration and a stronger economy.
I'm not so sure about the stronger economy, but
hey, who cares anyway? As long as we can bring immigration down, eh?
Well,
yes.
You are.
I don't care if it makes me poorer. Did you vote for Brexit, Bill?
Well, again, this is the point.
It's a question, Bill, not a point. Did you?
Of course I did, because I don't mind about being poorer.
As long as there's fewer foreigners around.
Yes.
Am I right? Good Lord. Quite nostalgic for the days when people like that rang in on a rather more regular basis. But to be fair to Bill, I suppose you can see why they don't. I want a stronger economy. What did you vote for in 2016? A weaker economy. Stop putting words in my mouth, mate. Have the floor. Say what you want.
I mean,
I hate this man so much.
It's mad.
I'm going to be honest. I feel a bit bad for him here because as a propagandist, he's clearly failing. As a mouthpiece for the regime, all of that fire, that twatty fire that he used to have when he was doing things like interviewing Nigel Farage has completely gone.
So ineffective.
The soul from this man's eyes, not that he had one to begin with, but whatever facsimile of a soul was displayed through his eyes is completely gone because he's been making these same arguments for who knows how long now. He's been doing the same song and dance for years and years. And are you going to tell me that he doesn't notice that the entire country's gone to pot? He's repeating the lines, but with no conviction because he doesn't believe them. Because even Aaron Bastani, as we saw last week, can walk around any town centre in this country and go, hold up, there's a bit more...
Lotus eaters are right.
Yeah, it's a bit more barren than it used to be. So if you're telling me that on his way to his morning pret, James O'Brien isn't noticing there's a few more empty shops than there used to be. So with mass migration being what it's been, if we're supposed to get X amount richer per immigrant come in, and we've had record migration...
Where's all the money?
Yeah, where is that record money that we should all be
fair,
making?
you can't see the destruction to the average British town in London, really. And it's one of the places that doesn't have loads of boarded up shops everywhere in the similar way to most towns across Britain.
Disconnect.
Yeah.
But he does very much remind me of neocons back in the day, just endlessly trying to defend the invasion of Iraq. And that's what we're going to go to in a minute. But obviously that point real quick that is so slippery that you see so common is like, you voted for Brexit, so why do you think that the country's poorer now? As if the assumption is that because Brexit was voted for and then passed through, there's been lower immigration. No.
It's gone up. And also...
Everyone's well aware. It's the highest it has ever been.
Brexit's not the only factor in the economy as well. They talk about it like it's the only thing that ever happened.
I'm sure you're about to show GDP per capita, but that's
no. Did you know?
Oh my goodness!
But here's just to make the point: we're still poorer than we were in 2007 in terms of GDP per capita. Here, you can just see that it's never recovered. It's just hopped up and down.
Does this even take inflation into account, or is this just raw numbers?
I assume this takes inflation into account. I believe so from World Bank, but
because if it is just raw numbers, then that's even worse, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, but it's just mad to be like, record immigration, therefore economy good. It's like, no, it doesn't work. Everyone lives here. I mean, people were confused, obviously, in the responses. So this is a graph of GDP growth versus net migration. And as you can see, the golden age here, low immigration. There's a golden age here. There's a slight uptick, but nothing mad. And then, there's one here that happens to coincide with the insanity. And then we continued the insanity. And for some reason, we fell through a cliff.
That is almost like an inverse trend, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's just mad. I mean, a lot of people were just straight up angry.
Well, no, wait. Let's be fair, Callum. Let's be fair. Go back. So you see that point in 2000, 2007 to 2009 is when the drop really starts to be noticeable, and then 2000
financial crisis.
Yeah, 2008 to 2009. That was obviously Brexit. What happened was in 2008, people voted Brexit.
Proto-Brexit.
And immediately became twice as poor as they used to. That's the only explanation.
You are so right that the endless focus on Brexit is like the last... I think Helen Dale said this. It's like the last Japanese soldier in 1955 still thinking the war's going on some island in the middle of nowhere. So shut up, man. Who
are the only people who talk about Brexit anymore? It's James O'Brien and Femi.
Yeah. And
they're the only people.
A lot of people were angry. It was just like, well, where's all the economic growth from the foreigners then? Come on. You Mr. Toad-looking motherfucker. Which, sympathize. And then there's people talking about, what do these people actually do all day? They think the economy is getting up because GDP go up because Infinity Africans and shitbox new builds are being built. It's like, no,
I didn't need this mental image of Mr. O'Brien.
Yeah, but I mean, both of those pills you're taking, I mean, it's just lower quality of life is the net result there. But then people started posting stuff like this, which is we're objectively poorer with more foreigners around. So yeah, I'd rather be poorer with zero foreigners, because that's really the option. Would you rather be poor and have no homeland, or poor and have a homeland? I mean,
Also, what's the logic here that England was never rich? England was never a world leader in economic forces before we had infinity Africans and infinity migrants coming into the country.
Here's a novel idea. How about if foreigners stop coming into the country, would actually gain money because they're not actually net contributors to the UK economy? That's
depending on the group.
Yes, of course.
But I mean, this is all just an economic argument. Of course, this doesn't matter that much. There are far more important things, such as not being ethnically displaced and ending your 2,000-year reign over an island. I mean, that's sort of kind of more important. Quality of life, that's more important. I mean, there's various things. But if you just want to talk pure economics, I mean, this graph is hilarious. It shows here earnings since the year 2000. Earnings are up 112% since the year 2000. House prices are up 240%. Now, the inflation rate during that time period is 124.9%. So you are poorer on average than you were in the year 2000.
So that immediately destroys the earnings increase.
Yeah, that's actually negative. The house prices, in real terms, they have gone up. What possibly could be the thing driving the house prices? Well, it's not because we're not trying to build enough. It is because of the demand. There's huge demand, not enough supply. Price go up.
Who'd have thought that the market operates on supply and demand? This new revelation. My goodness.
I do feel like a child doing these segments sometimes and saying that. But then you look at people in London and you're like, you are so disconnected. You don't seem to know. But there we are, or at least these people in particular. But I mean, just that point you were mentioning about types of immigrant, here's obviously people who know about immigration.
Denmark, yep.
This is the Danish study in which they found that Danish people are net contributors to the state. Western European immigrants, they're a net contributor. And then you have the group that other non-Western immigrants, they contribute some, but are a net drain. And then you have the Middle Eastern immigrants who are just a drain.
I assume other non-Western immigrants will be what, East Asians maybe?
Yeah, so there's a payoff period here.
But only when they're a particular age.
It also encompasses such a wide range there, of course, of groups of ethnic groups.
So these lines represent over a lifetime, right?
Yes, from the year you are born to the age of 90.
So at no point do Middle East or North African, Pakistan or Turkey, at no point in Denmark do they ever become net contributors.
Correct.
On average.
Yep.
So that's the truth. So there we are. And weirdly, as I mentioned, this reminded me him sitting there, because everyone knows this at this point. The shift has happened in Canada, it's happened in America, it's happened in the UK, Denmark, Germany, etc. I think everyone's pretty much getting up to speed on this. We're no longer having to take baby steps constantly. Instead, it is, no, we know that Infinity Africans doesn't equal infinity money. Otherwise, Zimbabwe would be to the moon. Are we
hoping that they're
continent?
Are we hoping that they're just like smuggling diamonds with them?
Yeah,
maybe, and then we can, when they're coming through customs, we can just get them for the diamonds. Maybe
everyone knows Africa is synonymous with riches and wealth. I mean,
so
come on,
that particular argument you see from James O'Brien, I mean, it really does remind me of this. So this is the image from the invasion of Iraq, with George Bush with his thumbs up going, mission accomplished in 2003.
Someone needs to Photoshop this. James O'Brien's face and rows of Turkish barbers.
Because the thing is, this is how I perceive this argument being made in the early 90s, is that people, I presume, actually took this argument seriously. It is comical on the face of it, but after the 20-odd years of what we've gone through, I mean, it is just nuts. And I want to compare it to the Iraq War, because, I mean, I think there's a weird similarity that I'm going to force through, which is... So, of course, I mean, the Iraq War starts out with the invasion. 30,000 Iraqis die. In exchange, 172 Anglos die. Sad day for the Anglos. And then, of course, there's the insurgency period, 2003 to 2006. And it's like, okay, maybe that whole Iraqi freedom thing was not a great idea. Maybe they don't want democracy. Maybe this is not going well. Well, we'll just fight for a few years. It'll be cool. There's another 90,000 people dead. And then it followed with the civil war immediately for 2 years in Iraq, which another tens of thousands of people dead. This is between, well, proto-ISIS, the Mahdi's, and then, well, us, really, propping up the Iraqi government, which, what happened after the civil war? Well, we had the second insurgency. 2011 to 2013.
They're like Marvel films, aren't they? They're coming out every year.
Yeah, that's another 10,000 dead. And then immediately after the Iraqi insurgency ends in this period, well, it didn't really end. It escalated into the second war in Iraq.
All right.
Against ISIS. Which,
hey,
the death count on this one is really large.
Oh, really? ISIS killed a lot of people? Is that what you're telling me?
No, we killed a lot of ISIS.
Oh, okay.
We did a very good job, I'll be honest. It's kind of very based. So, strength, 100,000, 200,000, 129,000 ISIS members killed.
Bloody hell.
So, there we are.
But, I mean, let's be fair, though, guys. It was all worth it because now we have peace in the Middle East.
Well, I'm just keeping it to Iraq. So the ISIS war encompassed, of course, a lot of genocide and a lot of extra people dying. So 220,000 Iraqis dead, 59 Anglos.
That's a hell of a AD ratio. Bloody hell.
We weren't doing all the fighting, but the strength of the American military is comical. Let's be fair. I mean, it does need to be nerfed for there to ever be a fair fight, and it's not going to be. And
yeah, I don't know.
Bless them.
Don't insurgents ever learn?
You say that, Callum, but how does an American military force engage against a few sandy boys coming from the mountains in 2022? Or
well, this is the
2021, whenever it was.
The big dichotomy between the juggernaut meme machine that is the US military and then the US political leadership, which is just awful on it. They can't do anything. I mean, they genuinely turned up to Afghanistan and were just like, oh, yeah, we'll make them liberals. It's just like, what? What are you talking about? But anyway, getting back to Iraq. Okay, so even from the invasion right up to 2017, just constant warfare. I mean, the last thing we're just looking at here is the ISIS war, which is, in terms of modern warfare, very large death count. I mean, not small. You don't get these kinds of deaths, usually. And then, of course, immediately after and to the present day, we still have an insurgency in Iraq. It didn't end. Still going on. So, yeah, mission accomplished, boys. I mean, you can still look if you go on Live Map and just check out the situation in Iraq still, and there's like a province up here that ISIS still control somehow. I mean, there's still crap going down because of all of the Yemen stuff, the Palestine things. There's a bunch of Iranian-backed military groups who are now threatening to blow up all the Western military bases and overthrow the government again. So, yeah, that 2003 invasion was not exactly mission accomplished. We still haven't accomplished anything. That mission is still a joke.
Now watch this drive.
Yeah. And this is how I see the argument about immigration, where it's just like, man, one day it'll start paying dividends. One day sacks of gold will turn up on the migrant dinghies. It's like, no.
There'll be no people. There'll be no women and children. It'll just be unmanned dinghies with gold on them.
Leprechauns on them.
The current discourse is that we're paying them the Danegeld, aren't we? We're paying the Vikings, the people coming over in the boats and pillaging our economy, money to go away.
It's not mission accomplished.
And then they don't go away.
It's never going to be mission accomplished. I mean, Iraq probably will never be mission accomplished at this point, and we'll end up like Afghanistan, or just becoming some kind of weird outpost the Americans have to spend loads of money on stabilizing every year, which, I mean, that's why we ended up leaving a lot of the empire. So it just wasn't worth having. But anyway, there's that. I'll bring it back to the immigration for a minute here, because, of course, it's easier, instead of accepting that mission not accomplished, to just believe lies, just endless lies. And the Canadians are finding this out in real time, because they've undergone an unbelievable level of mass immigration very, very recently. A lot of it from India. An unbelievable amount of immigration from India, frankly.
Well, I mean, India's just got an infinite supply of people to send wherever.
And as you can see, they're kind of shitting themselves, because they used to be quite similar in terms of standard of living to the Americans. And, they're always going to be poorer than the Americans, they're the global hegemon. But since the COVID lockdowns and then the mass immigration, the forecasts here are not good.
That's a big dip.
It turns out having huge demand for housing, which pushes up rent and house prices so much that no one can then save money to start businesses, really damages the economy. And then also all of the other problems, which we could sit and talk about for 5 hours and probably have collectively done about 200 hours worth of video on.
Yeah.
So there's that. And the response from the leadership in Canada, so this is the Canadian finance minister, she was asked this question, which is, maybe infinity immigrants doesn't make Canada richer. And she responded by saying, quote, Canada is the most welcoming country for new Canadians.
Magic soil.
Yeah.
They step onto that magic soil, immediately they become Canadian.
I thought
Ancestry, but who cares about that?
I thought Liechtenstein was the most welcoming to
For new Canadians.
What a weird sentence.
Yeah, that's just pure programming. But then she ends off that sentence after saying that with saying that the fact that Canada is the most welcoming for new Canadians is the source of its economic strength. I mean, we're not dealing with adults. We're not dealing with arguments. We're just dealing with mission accomplished. Trust me, bro. It's mad at this point. So she gives us a solution to the crisis, which is she wants to build more homes and also increase the level of immigration. Which, again, supply and demand. This isn't very difficult stuff. It really is just people shouting at you mission accomplished at this point.
To any political leader who might be watching this, even if you do want infinity immigration, consider it takes a lot longer to build a house than it does for an immigrant to cross your border.
Turns out buying plane ticket quite fast. But anyway, we are still stuck with this for the time being.
Oh, we're missing out. We're missing out the Turkish barbers, but
I didn't
happy with this.
Didn't think of it, but Thomas did a wonderful job of editing this together, which is mission accomplished. Infinity Africans equals infinity money, and we all have to sit here looking at this and feeling like this guy is serious. And it's so over. Like that paradigm is so over. And I'm glad at least that's dead. If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as Lads Hour, this episode on IMDb's top 250. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.